Welcome to another episode of Hear the Old Lore, where we compare the English and Japanese text of games for more insight into their lore. One of the more contentious topics in the lore of Dark Souls 3 is whether Prince Lothric previously linked the First Flame. It's understandable that there'd be some confusion over this point, particularly since Emma makes it sound as though he has yet to become a lord, and the English version of the Soul of the Twin Princes makes it sound like he never became a lord at all. However, I would argue that Emma's line should be understood as though she's saying that Lothric must fulfill his duty as a Lord of Cinder to return to his throne like Ledlith for the fire linking ritual.
Prince Lothric is in your hands. Please save his soul. Tell him what he must be, a lord.
As for the Soul of the Twin Princes' Japanese description, there's still some ambiguity, but it can be read the following way. The two princes, eschewing everything, rejected being lords of Cinder and awaited the end of fire. Their soul is inseparable due to a curse. It's a little difficult to convey it directly, but the major difference in the passage is that it can be understood that they're actively rejecting what it means being a Lord of Cinder, rather than rejecting becoming a Lord of Cinder. In other words, it's entirely possible to read it as though they chose to abandon everything after linking the fire and becoming a Lord of Cinder because they knew how fruitless an endeavor it was.
This spot marks our grave, but you may rest here too, if you like.
According to the Firelink Greatsword, Lords of Cinder are those who've linked the First Flame. This is reinforced with Hawkwood's Japanese dialogue saying the Lords of Cinder were all heroes who linked the flame, as well as Ledlith's dialogue saying he linked, and even the Firekeeper when she tells you to return all the Lords of Cinder to their thrones.
The 5 lords sit their 5 thrones, all thanks to thee, most worthy of lords. Ashen One, with the lords as thy witness, bend thy knee afore the bonfire's coiled sword, and let the Lord's embers acknowledge thee as their true heir, a true lord, fit to link the fire.
This is admittedly pretty minor, but I think it goes to illustrate my point. When the Firekeeper says the 5 lords hit their 5 thrones, her Japanese dialogue says the 5 lords are returned to their thrones, which includes returning Prince Lothric's Cinders of a Lord to his throne as well. Beyond that, Lothric and Lorian ember up in their second phase like all the other Lords of Cinder, and when they're defeated, the Lord of Cinder Fallen text appears on screen. To me, this is irrefutable proof that Lothric and Lorian should be considered proper Lords of Cinder who previously linked the First Flame, though I understand how dissatisfying that may be in the face of the Twins' soul description and Emma's dialogue. For what it's worth, I think there's some additional support to say that Lothric and Lorian linked based on how their souls are fused together. When you give Lothric's Holy Sword and Lorian's Greatsword to Ledlith, he says,
"Ah, thou'st 2 most peculiar swords discovered. A curse once bound them together, such that they served as one. A transposing kiln should restore their rightful form. But before thou shouldst act, think well upon the matter. As thou knowest, they are but newly rent apart."
From this, we can learn that Lothric and Lorian were not always one, and that the curse is responsible for their condition according to their soul and Lorian's Greatsword. Lothric's Cinders of a Lord say, the Lothric bloodline was obsessed with creating a worthy heir, and when this proved impossible, resorted to unspeakable means. Suffice it to say, the path to linking the fire is a cursed one indeed.
Rise if you would, for that is our curse.
So, although the ties are somewhat indirect, we can infer that when the frail Lothric followed his destiny to link the First Flame, Lorian, with his mighty body, joined him out of his own free will so that the kindling would be even stronger. The world was saved, the 2 souls fused into one, and in time, the fire did fade. Having honorably linked the flame only for things to end up the same as they had before, if not worse, they gave up on lordship and refused their duty to return to their throne.
Oh dear. Another dogged contender. Welcome, unkindled one, purloiner of cinders. Mind you, the mantle of Lord interests me none. The fire-linking curse, the legacy of lords, let it all fade into nothing. You've done quite enough. Now have your rest.
It certainly doesn't help that Lothric and Lorian are absent from the Lords of Cinder listed in the prologue, and I have a number of unanswered questions about the previous Lords of Cinder, like whether they had to kill each other to link the flame previously, and what order they did it, but I remain confident that Lothric and Lorian should count amongst the previous Lords of Cinder. If this video has convinced you of the same, or if you have counter-arguments you'd like to provide, feel free to share them in the comments or in my Discord server. The link is in the video description. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd like to thank all my patrons and channel members for their continued support and helping motivate me to continue working on projects like this one, and you for watching. Now remember, fear the old lore.